Hello everyone. PG Academic and Career Council welcomes you all for today's session of Research from Abroad. I am Khushbu Kishnani, General Secretary of PG Academics and Career Council. We know that many of you are looking forward to pursue a career in research from abroad. In that, there are many things, that is how to approach and before getting into a PhD and after PhD, like postdoc opportunities and all that. So basically, this session will clear all your doubts as we have two of our speakers who have that enhanced experience in those fields. We have Abhilash Oja with us, and we have Subodh with us, Sujan with us. Hi Abhilash, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good too. Sujan, what about you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for organizing this.
Yeah, so from here on, managers of research wing, that is Neha, Apala, and Pranav will take over the session.
Thank you, Khushbu. Good evening, everyone. I, Neha Sharma, manager of the research wing, along with my other team members, welcome all the participants and the speakers in the first talk series organized by Research Wing, Academic and Career Council in this academic year on the theme of research from abroad. But before proceeding, I would like to inform all the participants to drop their queries in the chat box. Meanwhile, the session proceeds further. So in order to make the session more interactive and to utilize our time effectively. So our first speaker is Mr. Abhilash Oja. Mr. Abhilash Oja is an incoming PhD scholar at University of Minnesota in the Department of Mechanical Engineering. He is currently finishing his MS research thesis in fluid mechanics from IIT Kanpur. He has previously worked at Space Applications Center, ISRO, as a scientist during 2017 and 2018. He completed his BTech in Mechanical Engineering from Uttar Pradesh Technical University in the year 2015. He also cleared ICRB, the entrance test for ISRO, twice during 2017 and 18, and GATE thrice. He has been awarded by the Academic Excellence Award in 2019 at IITK and outstanding performance recognition at ISRO for his work with lightweight carbon fibers in satellite payloads, GSAT-29. We welcome you, sir, and request you to share some insights of your beautiful journey with us.
Yeah, thanks, Neha, for such a nice introduction. And I would also like to thank Academic and Career Council Research Wing for organizing this session and inviting me to this talk. And to start off with, let me show you a short PPT on my journey, how I went, and sorry, but screen sharing is disabled.
Just a second, sir. Pranav, will you allow him?
Yes, just.
Yeah, I can share now. Just a minute. Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
Yeah. So to start off with, I did my undergrad from Uttar Pradesh Technical University, and I graduated in 2015. After which I took a drop year from 15 to 16, and I prepared for government services, basically GATE and engineering services. And during that year only, I also gave ISRO's examination, that's ICRB, and fortunately I got selected into that. And I was posted at Space Applications Center, SAC Ahmedabad, that basically deals with payload design and manufacturing division, payload design division it is of ISRO. And so in 2016 around, my ISRO journey started. And when I got selected to ISRO, so it was for me more than academic industry experience. I got to really meet a lot of talented people there, and I also worked in collaborative projects with Mount Abu. You can see this observatory at Mount Abu with telescope, 1.2-meter telescope there. And I also met a lot of professors there who came for funding to ISRO, and who have collaborative projects with there. So I learned there. I learned a lot of technical skills, and I gained a lot of knowledge also. But slowly and slowly, as I proceeded in with my job years, I began to realize that there was something missing, that I needed to do more. I interacted with professors also from IIT, and then realized that I was more kind of interested in applied research. I wanted to do independent research. By then, I was also thinking about that what career should I choose. So I also realized that organizational research, that's for ISRO, it was kind of not a system for me. So I went on to decide that I would leave ISRO and go into the applied research and join some of IITs or ISP. So in 2018, I left ISRO and came to IIT. And this decision of resigning from ISRO, kind of, it was very big setback, kind of disappointment to my parents, my friends, and I was also disappointed by that time because I kind of didn't know how this decision would affect me and what it would turn out to me like 5 years down the line. So when I came to IIT, I also saw many of students, master students, dropping this program and going out to join PSUs. But I was like, I came the other way around. So honestly speaking, I didn't tell them at first that I came from job. I left job and came here. And at that time, my social circle was also small because due to bad health, I missed my orientation program at IIT Kanpur. And to overcome these things, I thought that I was on my own. I had no backing of options. So to overcome these, what I did that I started to explore myself. I started kind of in auditing courses in different departments. Like IIT Kanpur offers you this academic freedom. You can go and do courses in any department you want. And I kind of started engaging in sports activities where I made some friends and colleagues who would later help me out in my career. And then I also met some professors from different departments, and I kind of gave point my research network there because I knew that research network is important for me. I would need recommendations, I would need guidance from professors apart from my faculty advisor. So yeah, from then after that, from third semester of my masters, I started looking for PhD positions, and I was doing project in atmospheric flows. So kind of at first, I started looking PhD positions in atmospheric flows only. Basically, my project was experimental, so I was more kind of interested into experimental work. So in my third semester only, I gave GRE TOEFL, and I kind of mailed different professors abroad in Europe and US and Canada also. But I also applied them around December, and from whichever professor I got positive response, I applied to them. But to my disappointment, I couldn't get a funded position in for the fall 2020. I don't know the reason. Probably because COVID came at that time, and due to COVID also we know that I'm a research student. Our work also came to halt, and I was experimentalist. So we had to go back home. Our experiments came to halt, and then I didn't know that what to do by then. So I contacted some of my colleagues, which were at the IIT. They were very helpful, and I was very proactive in research also. I knew what professor did what kind of research in this department and what kind of research I'm interested. So then I talked to my advisor that I wanted to explore myself. Because I'm representing this work in foreign universities, so I think there is something lacking in me. Something is missing in me. That's why I couldn't I couldn't secure a funded position. So my advisor is very cool guy. So he said that, okay, what you want to do? I told him that I want to do computer simulation. That's what I can do from while working from home. So he said he allowed me to work on a collaborative project with Department of Physics, IIT Kanpur, and Mechanical Engineering, IIT Kanpur, and Mechanical Engineering Department at IIT Bombay. So now I started working with three professors. I started exploring myself more. I was kind of, you see, at first I was working in experimental field, and then I completely switched to simulation field. This was the kind of freedom that I was expecting to explore myself, to do new research, and to learn new things. Kind of learning curve was very steep for me in this time period. So I started applying again for the fall 2021 admission. This time I had insight into the system, how to apply, how to approach the professors, And then also this time I had recommendations from 3 different professors, and I had 2 projects to show to them, to professors abroad. When I contacted them and I showed my profile that I did experimental work and simulation work, believe me that it played a role, because you are kind of combining both different approaches, and this was work that I did in my master's thesis. And yeah, for I think this bolstered up my CV, and I got offers from 3 different universities: Eindhoven, UC Davis, and University of Minnesota, of which I am choosing University of Minnesota to attend my doctoral program. And I would like to conclude by saying that IITK environment nurtured me well during my master's year. It it kind of allowed me to bring positive changes in my life, and it also explained me one big lesson. It also taught me one big lesson, that you should be ready to sacrifice for making your dreams come true. And kind of the mere thought of this leaving this place, which is going to be very soon, kind of makes me sad. So, yeah, thank you, and I would be happy to answer questions once Susan has been done with his talk. No.
Thank you, sir. Apala will introduce our next speaker, Dr. Sujan Pal. Apala, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Abhilash Oja, for your nice introduction. Our next speaker is Dr. Sujan Pal. He is an excellent researcher and has been dwelling in the United States for a couple of years till now. Dr. Sujan Pal is currently a postdoctoral scholar at Argonne National Laboratory, Chicago, United States. He has completed his PhD in atmospheric science from University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, United States in 2021. He has done his master's in hydrology from University of Arizona, United States in 2017. He was a former researcher at Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. He has done several internships from Northeastern University, Boston, from IIT Powai, and weather analytics situated at Washington, DC, United States. He completed his BTech in civil engineering from Jadavpur University, Calcutta, India. He was a former engineer at Power Grid Corporation Limited during the year 2014 and 2015. And he was honored with the prestigious Galileo Circle Scholar Award from the University of Arizona in the year 2017. Dr. Pal, I welcome you to our session today. You may now proceed with your speech. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Apala, for the wonderful introduction. And I would also like to thank the research wing of Academics and Career Council for organizing this and giving me this opportunity. So I just made one slide so I can share my journey with you, and so that you guys get some context and ask any questions. So let me share. Yeah, so hi everyone. So I am a postdoctoral scholar at Environmental Science Division at Argonne National Lab, Chicago. So I'm somewhere here in the US, and I do research on climate change and how that may impact the hydrologic extremes in future, and how we can make a resilient society and the infrastructure in terms of civil engineering, making civil engineering structures more resilient. So I did my schooling from Uttarpara Government High School in West Bengal, India. It was a government school. And I did my BTech or BE from Jadavpur University in civil engineering. During my BTech, I did 2 internships, which helped me to get into the research. The first one was in IIT Bombay. It was a summer internship in the civil engineering department. And in the 3rd year, I did a summer internship in Northeastern University, which is in Boston, somewhere here. And then I get into the climate change research in that time. And after that, I got a job in Power Grid Corporation of India Limited. So I was working there as a civil engineer for 1 year. It was partly in Gurgaon and partly in North Bengal. But at that time, I had in back of my mind that I'll do some research in future, And so I was looking for opportunities which was not there in my job, and I then tried to apply for a study leave so that I can take a break from the job and get some exposure in research and get my master's degree. But it didn't happen. So because it was just my first year and they didn't allow me to do any kind of study leave, apply for study leave at that time. So I had to leave my job, and then I applied for a master's, and I got admitted to the master's program of University of Arizona, which is in Tucson, somewhere here. And it was a fully funded master's program funded by TNRA. So, and here I'd like to mention that these internships, which I had a background in research, and I could write it in my SOP that I'm eligible to do research, and that's what got me a funded master's in the University of Arizona. So during my master's, it was a mix of course credit and research. So by course credit, I mean you have to take classes. So in master's, it's generally 8 to 11 classes. So I think in Arizona, it was 33 credits, which is kind of an upper limit, I'll say. So we had to take 11 classes in 4 semesters. And for research, I had to write a thesis and defense as well. So after my master's, I had opportunity to do a job or do a PhD. So those were the two options. I chose PhD because I wanted to do more research and get a doctorate degree. So I got an admission. So it was the same process. I applied again, and I got a PhD position in University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. So it's in Illinois. It's like 2 hours drive from Chicago. And at that time, the research credit was main, as you know, for PhD. And there are several steps. If you have more questions, I can answer, but mainly qualifying examinations, which is generally waived if you have a master's degree already, especially from a US institution. And there is a preliminary examinations. Those are like asking you about what is your research topic, and if it's really a good topic for PhD or not, so that kind of thing, and make you a PhD candidate. And then again, I just defended my thesis in this May. So I graduated with a doctorate degree from this university. So after my PhD, again, there are options like I could do a job, or I could do a postdoc and work as a scientist. So I chose National Lab, and again, with a postdoc, there are two options. You can choose either a postdoc from a university. So there are different universities which is offering nice postdoc positions. And the other one was work for the governmental national labs. So I chose that because I think I could do a permanent job in there as well. And of course, there is an opportunity to be a faculty after that, once you have enough research experience. And so yeah, that's my journey so far, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pal, for your nice introduction and motivating speech. We'll now proceed to the question answer session. We already have a few questions in the chat box. So let us complete these questions, and then we'll also have some questions from our part, which we'll be asking to you. The first question is directed to Abhilash. And the question is, during PhD, when we should approach for abroad, can we approach after completion of coursework or after the state of the arts?
State of the art, like, is he looking for a postdoc? He or she, whoever has mailed this question.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, sir. I am Akhilesh, sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. So are you looking for postdoc opportunities? Like you mentioned,
no, sir. I just admitted in PhD in the last year, and okay. Coursework is completed. But during the PhD from the IIT Kanpur, I also want to do some research work in abroad. basically my question is how I apply and when we can apply this.
Yeah, I think
Okay,
if
so
he's in doing his PhD, then Dr. Sujan can answer his question well, because Abhilash is yet to join his PhD.
Yeah, can you repeat the question once more?
Yes, sir. Basically, I admitted it, for the PhD in the last year in IIT Kanpur, and I completed coursework. Then my literature review is ongoing. When we can apply for the some research work for the abroad?
Okay, yeah. So I guess one option would be after completing your PhD as a postdoc. But if you want to apply during your PhD, so there are several options. So you can email to professors in your similar field in US or UK university, Europe universities, asking for a visiting scientist. So if they have funding, or if you have your own funding, you can go and work at their lab. So that's one option. And another one, I have seen people applying for Fulbright scholarship. So that can be helpful for you to get like a funding for 1 year, and you can go in your like choice university, wherever
Yes,
the research
yes, sir.
suits you. So
It means, sir, after completion of the 1 year, can we try to for the abroad, or we should wait for some more time?
So I think generally the Fulbright scholar is for 1 year. So after you complete 1 year visiting, say, United States, and then you go back and complete your PhD. So you have to
Okay.
complete your PhD from IIT Kanpur only. So I don't think you can transfer.
No. Basically, I want to go for the some time, for example, 1 semester, one sandwich program like that.
Yeah, that's possible. So the
Yes.
main problem is the funding. So either you can get funding from your Fulbright scholar, or you can
Yes.
ask the professor if they have funding, they can take you for some time.
Okay.
Say
We can approach our supervisors directly for this.
Yes, you can email them.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So next question, Abhilash, what are the procedure for applying full funded PhD if we are trying to apply from India?
yeah, so to start with, like first you need GRE TOEFL if you are applying, looking for a position in US or Canada. And TOEFL you need anyways. Even if you are applying in Europe, there are some good institutions like Max Planck, they accepted TOEFL. And you should first try to gain diverse research experience. First, your thesis, like you should be well aware of the thesis. That's what you are doing. Even if you don't have the research paper, then also it's fine. But you should be well aware of your thesis. That's what you're doing. And then you should start communicating with different professors. You should look at different universities, go to the faculty profiles there, look what research they are doing, and you should mail them. After you have what I did, that after I was done with my GRE TOEFL, I started mailing different professors, and some of them will revert back to you, and some of them won't. So those will who revert back to you, they would like to meet you on Zoom or something. So that's the opportunity that you have got to convince them that yeah, you are the guy for them. So you can explain your research, what you have done so far to them, and you can just let them know that what you are interested in future and how your research aligns with their research. So that's the procedure that you should follow. First, you should get GRE TOEFL, and then you should start mailing the professors there, and they will revert back to you that yeah, they have funding positions available for this year. Yeah, you can apply for them. Other thing is that in the US, especially, I'm talking about, there are some universities like in which there is a committee. Uh, Professor has no say in this, no say in that. Like when I applied to Johns Hopkins, Georgia Tech. So it has committee. Once committee accepts you, then you are admitted. Georgia Tech and Penn State University, they have committee. You have to apply first. So that's a risky situation. So I will say I would suggest you that you should first mail professor. Thereafter, your GRE TOEFL has been done.
Thank you, Abhilash. Next question is for Dr. Pal. The question is, as I joined directly PhD after BTech, will it affect in applying for postdoc?
Not at all. I'll say it's a good thing actually. So if you did join a PhD, and it all depends on your research, how your papers are. So that's what it's seen in the postdoc applications. Also, how the position you are applying for, how is it aligned to your research interest. So that's all matters, not like masters.
Okay, so the next question, I think both of you will be able to answer this very nicely. The difference of PhD in USA versus UK. Dr. Pal will start with you and then we'll move to Abhilash.
Well, I am not very sure about UK, but because I did from USA. But what I have heard and what I know is UK is more like a time bound, and you have less coursework, more, I mean, almost fully research, and it's completed within 3 to 4 years. But in United States, it's a mix of courseworks, because they think that the coursework make you prepared for the research as well. So they put a lot of effort on courseworks as well. So it takes around 4 to 5 years, and there is no hard bound limit. And sometimes given like a very good university, say MIT's, so they may take like 7 to 8 years depending on the quality of your PhD. So that's the only difference I can think of. And in terms of application, I think you need to give different exams. Like, I guess IELTS is more popular for Europe and TOEFL for US. Yeah, I don't know, Abhilash can say more.
Yes, Abhilash, your view on this.
Yeah, actually, this question has very broad aspect, and I think I'm capable of answering this because I got one position in Netherlands. So it is similar to not exactly UK-based system, that which they follow, Bolgana process they call it, and it is like as Dr. Pal said that it is a very time-bound PhD. In Europe, you have 4 year limitation, 3 to 4 years. For UK, I think it's 3 years. So within 3 years, like you have to complete your PhD. And while in the US, there is no time limit. You can go up to 7 years and 8 years, whatever. It depends on the project, how long the project takes for the completion. But I would say that instead of in the UK, you can say that it is instead of time bounded. Like I'm experimentalist, and I believe that 3 years for me is not enough. So that was the reason 3 to 4 years is for me is not enough. So that was the reason that I chose US. But if you are interested in the project in the UK or in the Europe, then and the research group is very nice, then you should go for it. So the question shouldn't be that what's the difference, but you should be that in which project you are interested there. So apart from, and funding situation is also varies. Like in UK or Europe, you have a definite funding, sure shot funding. That once you are admitted, it's like a job. You have to do 40 hours a week. You are paid for it. And but in US, you have to do TA. It's similar to IIT-K system. So that's the difference that I can think of. And apart from that, work-life balance. People say that Europe has more work-life balance. I don't know if this is relevant to research students or not, but they say that Europe has more work-life balance than US. So yeah, that's the difference I can think of.
Okay, so the next question is how to address the research experience being affected due to current COVID situation. Abhilash, you will say like how to address this after the masters, and Dr. Pal, you will say how to address it if someone is doing their PhD. So we'll start with Abhilash.
Actually, when I approached professors there, so they pretty much well understood the COVID situation. So you don't have to explain it. They understand it that everything, it is a pandemic situation, so everyone is aware of it. But to cover up those aspects, like to gain edge over the others, what you can do, you can try to show them something that what you have done in the pandemic. Like you can say that I have done courses on Coursera, I have done simulation work. What I did, I showed them that I have done computer simulation during the lockdown. So it played a huge role in that. So I think first you can do some online courses which is readily available and do some computer simulation. It would cover up.
Dr. Pal, if someone
Yeah.
is doing their PhD, yes.
So for me, I got the postdoc position in pandemic only, so it didn't affect me. I'll not say too much in terms of, because I don't do experiments. It's more like a desk job, so I use my computer, and so I can do it from my home most of the work. But the thing is, I haven't seen my new lab, right? So I just am working from home still now, so it kind of affects me socially. Like I don't know people, I don't know many people to collaborate with. So those are the opportunities, like small casual talks. Those I think are affected. But I think eventually the situation is getting better. So yeah, I'll say hopefully. Let's hope.
Okay, so next question is from Gaurav Dey to Abhilash. To Abhilash sir, when is the best time to email professors abroad? I mean June, July, or in October, November, in case of both Europe and US?
As I would suggest, as early as you can. June, July. I started during my second attempt. I started mailing them around June, July, and you should keep a timeline like 2 to 3 months to mail them. And I started from June and went up to September. Like September 15 is the date when applications first are posted on the website. So in that time, you can mail them. Even if they are busy, they will tell you that I'm busy. You can contact me after some time. Even if they are unsure about their funding situation, they will tell you that you can contact me sometime around November, and I would be better able to tell you about my funding situation. So I would say that yeah, you should start as early as possible. That's the thing.
Okay, next question is from Sonal Gupta for Sujan sir. How we should write email to professor abroad for postdoc position? Is there any specific thing they look for and what is to avoid?
Yeah, so I think you can write anytime to the professor whose research is aligned to you. So definitely attach a CV and try to mention publications. Even if you don't have publication, if something is under preparation, try to mention that and what you are working on, and maybe include some of your own thoughts, like unique thoughts that what you have gathered during your PhD. And I guess for the first few emails, you don't need to talk about funding. So just wait for them to reply, show the interest. And I'll say email or apply to as many professors you can, because there are always chances that they will not get back to you, or because they are busy or don't have funding. So apply to as many professors as possible, and yeah, focus on your research, like whatever you have done or what you have future plans in your mind, like what you can do as a postdoc. And hopefully that's oriented to his or her research. And yeah, I think that's the key.
So the next question is from Abhijit for both Abhilash and Sujan sir. To what extent we should know the topic of our PhD while applying, or is it okay to not to have specific topics fields in your mind beforehand from both US and European perspective? Dr. Pal, we can start with you.
Yeah, it's absolutely okay to not have an idea. Even after 1 or 2 years of PhD, people don't have idea about what exactly the project is. So just tell like what you are interested in, what kind of topic, and what papers made you like interested, or at least try to specify some of the areas. Don't be too general, like yeah, say like a very broad topic, but at least be a little bit specific, but you don't have to be exact, like what topic.
Abhilash, your view on this?
Yeah, actually, as Dr. Paul said, that it's okay to not to be aware of your topics, and you can also go entirely choose a different topic if you want to do internship and something. But the thing is that you should be able to corroborate your application that you have this skill, you can do this, and as you can also say that I have read your research papers and I kind of find it fascinating and intriguing, and you can say that I can perform well in this situation, in this project also, as I have done similar, as I have performed well in my PhD project. So they consider that some professors believe that if you have performed good in one topic, then you can perform in other topic also. So I believe, yeah.
Yeah, and also try to find some research gaps, like say you read the papers and literature review and you see some gaps in the research that you can fill in. So if there, you can find like multiple research gaps. So that gives your professor an option too, like where he or she can fund you to do research and make your input there.
Next question is from Ashwarya Naik to Abhilash sir. What is an efficient way of finding a PhD supervisor? I had to change my MTech thesis topic due to COVID. However, I'm interested in the theme of the original project. I was involved.
Appala, you are not audible, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, her screen is frozen.
Anyways, I can read what is an efficient way of finding an PhD supervisor. I had to change my MTech thesis topic due to COVID. However, I was interested in the theme of original project. I was involved in, but I don't have much skill in that area. Just would you suggest go for topics I have relevant skill around or the one I'm interested in? I would suggest that finding PhD topic is PhD supervisor is a kind of thing. It is a time involving. It's not an easy thing. I would suggest. So you should be flexible. You shouldn't say that I would like. What I believe that in the first attempt I got rejected because I was rigid. That I want to do only experiments only. That thing I think kind of played a negative role on my application. So if you are having relevant research skills in other topics, but you have so that's good. You can convey to them that I have done this also. I have done this skills also. And if you are in just to answer your question, that if you are interested in some project, then definitely you should go for that project only. Like I prioritize interest more over other things. So if you like the project, then you should really go with that.
Okay, so next question is to the Sujan sir. Sir, the question is, during PhD in US, are the expenses manageable comfortably with the stipend provided?
Yes, definitely. And even you can save. So yeah, I think I have calculated you can save at least 6 to 8 lakhs also in terms of Indian money for with a 1-year PhD. So it's completely manageable, and yeah, you can live a good life. So the problem is with masters, sometimes you don't have funding. But yeah, with PhD or anyway, if you're funded by TA or RA, you are good because the tuition is already paid by that. You just have as a salary in hand, and you can easily do well with that.
Okay, so next question is to Abhilash sir. That is year gap matter after BTech to apply for PhD if we prepare for exam on that gap, if we use that gap for the exam preparations?
Yeah, if it's for 1 year, then it won't matter. But if like 2 to 3 years, then you have to give a valid explanation for that. That's what you did in those times. But 1 year doesn't matter.
Okay. So next question is again for the Abhilash sir. What kind of jobs or opportunities do you look for after your PhD?
I'm like I have worked in industry, so I wouldn't say that I'm bad for industry also. But as of now, I'm determined for faculty position. I would like to go for postdoc and then for faculty position. But it's too early to say. If things change during my journey, then I would be happy to work in industry also. I have done that, so it's fine with me.
Okay. So Sujan sir, anyone can give. The question is that give some light on joint degree program.
What do you mean by joint degree?
Joint degree,
master's PhD?
maybe PhD and postdoc.
I don't think PhD and postdoc can be a joint degree. So it's always postdoc is a separate thing. But yeah.
I am asking in that sense, like joint degree program, like PhD, joint PhD by IIT Kanpur and some other abroad universities.
Right. Yeah. So I think I so basically, if you're funded from a US university for some years, I am still not sure if it would be called as a joint degree or not. But yeah, definitely, as I mentioned, there are options to get funding for 1 or 2 years during your PhD in India from US. So you can apply for either a Fulbright scholar, or you can ask for a collaborating professor who can also guide you and take you in for 1 or 2 years or for a few semesters. So you have to apply or talk to the professor abroad who is willing to take you, and you have to secure your funding. So those are the two things you can look for.
Okay. So next question is to Sujan sir. If you can tell about some postdoc fellowship deadlines which provides funding.
Yes, so I know some of in US. So there are mostly the deadlines are in October, November, and the fellowship will start from next August. So, but it's very specific for many departments, and you can go to their website. Generally, they always mention the deadlines there, and so make a list of wherever you are thinking of applying for as a postdoc, and go through their website to see the deadlines. It really varies, but in general, yeah, October to November is the deadline, and it starts from next August.
So, sir, is there any specific website where we can find postdoctoral positions?
Yeah, that's very general. I don't know. Yeah, so which department are you talking about?
So, Aman, you can unmute yourself.
Sir, I have done my BTech in mechanical engineering, and now I am doing material science, PhD in material science from IIT Kanpur.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm not
yeah.
sure, so I have to look yourself, or yeah, if you can email me, and if I know someone, I can put them in contact with you. I know some people who have done with your similar background, but yeah, I'm not the right person.
Can you share your email?
Yeah, it's yeah, I'll type it in the chat box.
Okay.
So next question is for Abhilash sir. What is the effect of publishing or not publishing research paper of thesis for PhD admission in abroad after the master degree?
I would say that research paper, if you have research paper, then it plays a huge role in the selection process. Although there are other things also, your recommendations, your SOP, your GPA, your GRE score. But I would say that research paper is top priority. If you could get your research paper, it would ease a lot of things. But since I didn't have any research papers as of now, I'm about to publish it. But yeah, so even if you don't have research paper, you have good recommendations, good research background skills, and good CGPA, then definitely you can get admit without research paper also. But if you have it, then yeah, it's great. Then you should try to get research paper, in my view.
Okay, so next question is for Sujan sir. For postdoc, which research area have more scope, either experimental or computational?
Yeah, I think both of them has their own pros and cons, and yeah, there are very good opportunities in both, but you have to keep in mind for experimental, you have to be patient, and yeah, maybe sometimes it can take a longer time to achieve results, but I think yeah, both of them had good opportunities in terms of like what exactly field you are talking about.
So Abhilash sir, when should we start working on statement of purpose and letters of recommendation?
For letters of recommendation, I would say that when you are in the coursework, you should try to interact with faculties as much as possible. And you should try to diversify your courses also. Try to do different courses in different departments. So during the coursework, you can work on letters of recommendation and try to get to know the faculty. And faculty also should know your research interests. But on the statement of purpose, it's like, again, I would say as early as you start, but you have to give like 3 months. Like I gave around 2.5 to 3 months. First, I wrote a rough draft, and then I circulated among my friends just for proofreading. They gave their recommendations and suggestions, and then finally, after doing a lot of iterations, I finally gave it to my advisor, and then he gave his suggestions. So it all took 3 months. So you should plan accordingly with that. Statement of purpose would take time, and for the letter of recommendation, you can do along the coursework.
Okay, sir. So next question is for Sujan, sir. As PhD takes longer in India and America compared to Europe, hence the quality and the quantity of work done in PhD from Europe will be less. Does this affect while applying for the postdoc?
It may. So yeah, say if you're doing a PhD from MIT or like very good quality PhD, so that might get you a better postdoc compared to if you do it very quickly. But yeah, if you are able to put together same amount of work within 3 years and yeah, within 7 years, so it always depends on where are you after completing your PhD and how many papers you have published or what are the quality of those. So yeah, it depends a little bit, but it's up to you, like how much research you can get done throughout your PhD.
Okay, so next question is for Abhilash, sir. Is it possible to get RA position in any of the labs of our interest or under a professor for a specific time period, like an internship in US or UK without taking admission for PhD, that is after masters from IIT? If yes, then what is the procedure?
Yeah, it's completely possible. For Europe, actually, there is one side academic position. You can go and look up on that. And for US, I'm not sure how to approach professors for internship. Maybe the thing I thought that back 1 year, that I would ask my advisor that if he has some contacts with professors there where I can do some short-term internship. That is the way, or I would say that you can mail him the professors also that you want to do short-term internship. These are your interests. You have published paper in this field, blah blah blah. So then maybe yeah, you can do that. But for internships, I think contacting faculty advisor, your faculty advisor, is a good thing. He may suggest you better on this.
Okay. So the next question is to Sujan, sir. How to write a SOP for postdoc?
Yeah, so there is no SOP for postdoc. You don't have to, but I mean the SOP, like a statement of purpose, as you are saying. So it's just if you are applying to universities, it's just approach the professor like a pre-app. Just tell them that you have done a PhD in this topic and you want to do a postdoc. Attach your CV and ask for like if he is willing to take students. So there is no such like a formal SOP. And if you are applying for a postdoc as a position, you might have to write a like a simple cover letter. It's a small one, how the position you are applying for fits with your research, and that's it. So it's shorter than a PhD or master's SOP, which is required.
So the next question is for you only. Is Fulbright the only option for sponsoring in US for postdoc? What is the procedure for applying to Fulbright?
So I was talking about Fulbright for during your PhD, not for postdoc. So for postdoc, I think there is Fulbright, as well as professors are willing to fund you. So when you have already a PhD, so they know that you are capable of doing research, so they are more willing to fund you. So you can directly ask the professor for funding. And I'm not sure about what's exactly the procedure for applying Fulbright, but please send me an email. I know some people who have applied and got it through, so I can put you in contact with them.
Okay. So the next question is to you, sir. Postdoc scholarship in management field, and name them if you know.
Management, I'm not sure. Again, just you send me an email. If I know someone, I'll put you in contact with them.
In Canada, which country is best for research and funding?
So next question is actually for both of us, so I will start with Abhilash, sir. How you remained efficient to do research work during pandemic, and while staying at home. I have seen many people having problem in concentrating on research work during this period.
And by which country is best for research as well as funding and
Yeah,
masters?
so hello, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes.
Hello. Yeah.
Yes.
So what you can do that with try to meet you with your advisor on like in a routine way. Like I before like 2 weeks, I used to meet my advisor every week. So if you have meetings scheduled, and then you will definitely work according to that. It doesn't mean that you should work 24 hours because we all know that it's a pandemic situation. It's difficult to concentrate at home, but try to be on the meetings regularly, I would say. So that will help you focus anyway. If you have a timeline that I have to present my work every week, then automatically focus would come on.
Yeah, I'll say fix your schedule. Like don't work for longer time. That will not help you. But fix your schedule that these are the 7 to 8 hours I'll concentrate, and you know when you are most productive. So arrange that time, and that you have flexibility during COVID. If you are more productive at night, so fix that time that this is the time I'll work. And yeah, and yeah, regular meetings will help so that there are some deadlines, so you are not procrastinating.
Okay. So next question is, what are the procedures to join as a faculty in foreign universities, specifically in US and UK, after completion of the PhD? And is postdoc necessary for the faculty position in such universities after PhD from IIT Kanpur?
Yeah, so faculty position, they generally put an ad. So if you see faculty opening, you apply, it's like a job. Then they will call you for, I think first there is a screening, and then there is a interview. In before COVID, it happened to be you can go to the university, meet the students, and give a presentation if that fits well with the department you are applying for. And if also you can get to talk to the students, because some of them will be your grad students in future. So we can talk to them, and if the research is aligned, they will hire you. So generally the eligibility criteria is not a postdoc, so you can directly apply after your PhD. But the thing is, again, with a postdoc you have more experience, more paper published, but yeah, it's not a criteria. So directly after PhD from IITs, I think it's possible to apply if you are yeah, really good in research and exceptional. But in general, people do a postdoc and then apply from here, so that you get to know the system a little bit. So if you're already in a US university, you know how everything works. But yeah, it's not a criteria. You can still apply and you can still get through if your research is really good.
Okay, sir, next question is to you only. Between US and Canada, which country is best for research as well as funding in masters in structural engineering? Funding is the thing that I am most concerned. I can't afford.
Yes, so funding in masters comes from two different things. In US, I'm not very sure about Europe, but in US there are two things. It's either it's teaching assistantship or research assistantship. So teaching assistantship depends on if there is a teaching position available. So what you can do, you can write to the department that I'm looking for a teaching position. After you have the admit, you can write to the department that I have got an admission, and if there is a teaching assistantship available. And for the RA, research assistantship, you have to show your research from your undergrad, like to convince them that you can do some research. So those are the two options you can look for. So I think it's possible in structural engineering as well. But yeah, since yeah, depends on the professor if he has funding, or the research you are doing, if he has a project related to that or not. So I'll say apply more and more just to be sure that you get the funding. So we have to apply a lot. It's difficult.
Excuse me, Dr. Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually I asked you a question before about the Fulbright sponsorship. So I asked about the procedure. So my question was, shall we secure postdoc positions before applying to Fulbright? scholarship, or we should apply to Fulbright, then we search for positions, we tell them that okay, we have this sponsoring, then we apply.
Yeah, I think you can apply before, so that will help you, because whenever the professor you are talking to, they will know that you have your own funding, and it will be very easy for you to get in. So I think you can apply for the scholarship before. But again, with the procedure, I'm not sure. So just send me an email, and I can put you in contact with some people who has done this before.
Sure, thank you.
So next question is to Abhilash sir. I also have a background in experimental fluid mechanics. Would you please mention the sources through which you increased your knowledge base and hands-on practice in CFD before working on live research projects?
Okay, so one thing, you can do a coursework, you can take a coursework in CFD, but if you are done with your coursework, so then what you can do, you can ask, like, I went on directly to do a project in simulation. So I had one friend who helped me a lot in that. So maybe you can also try to find out someone who is working on simulations project, CFD, and try to get to know him and ask you doubts and try to learn with him. So that would be the best way to learn CFD. Apart, like, you can always read the textbook, but apart from that, you should try to get in touch with someone who is doing that project. I had one guy, so I learned a lot of things from him. So maybe you can do that apart from coursework.
Okay. So next question is to Sujan sir. How should I apply for a joint PhD in foreign universities, and when should I start applying for it? I am currently doing PhD from BSBE IIT Kanpur, and I am in second year now.
Yeah, so I am not actually sure about the joint PhD. I have to look for it. But again, what I know is you can get funding for few years through either fellowship or just asking for a professor to be a co-advisor and fund you for 1 or 2 years in between. So it's the process is you have to email to them if they are willing to, and also talk to your advisor if he knows or he or she knows someone who can be your co-advisor and also fund you for your US visit for a few years.
So the question is to Abhilash sir. Did you sit for placement at IIT Kanpur? Why? Yes or no? Yes.
No, I didn't go for placement at IIT Kanpur. The reason was that I had left the job, so I already knew that I wanted to go in academia and I wanted to go abroad for my PhD. So that's why I thought that placement would distract me, and that time I can devote to my research work or preparing myself for the admissions application. So that's why I didn't go for the placement.
Okay, sir. So these were the questions from students who have attended the session. So
Yeah, with the joint PhD questions, whoever is asking, please send me an email. If I find something like really relevant, I'll send you or reply you back. So I'm not sure at this moment.
sir, we got one new question that can you please tell us the basic difference between PhD and postdoc?
Yeah, so in PhD, you are basically getting prepared to be a scientist. So you learn a lot. So that's the thing, like people will help you, like your advisor will teach you, you have more time, say 5-6 years, whatever you need. But in postdoc, you are not learning anymore. You are supposed to be knowledgeable enough to do your own research. And also one more difference is you don't have to get your own funding generally in PhD because your professor has the funding. But as a postdoc, you might have to write a grant with your advisor for securing funding. So you are more like a more professional at your postdoc rather than PhD when you are still learning.
Okay. Next, 1 minute, sir. So the question is how the experimental work is managed in this pandemic situation over there.
Yeah, so in US, there are rigorous testing, first of all, lots of testing. So that's one good thing. The other thing they did was put into slots. So in the labs, they have put slots for, like, they could manage the slots. Like, you can book a slot, and at the lab at the same time, maybe one or two people will be allowed. And you have the options to choose your slot, book it beforehand so that you can continuously make progress. But I guess you cannot go every day because you cannot, so there are others who will also use the lab. So there is a little bit of difficulty there, but yeah, at the same time, they're trying to make things as smooth as possible with the help of testing and managing the timings.
Okay. So the next question is how efficient is PhD or postdoc in terms of salary after completion?
Like after completion of PhD, can you repeat the question again?
After PhD or postdoc in terms of salary after the completion, how efficient is the PhD and postdoc in terms of salary after completion?
Oh, okay. So after PhD, it depends on what job you are joining. So after PhD, there are several options. You can go to an industry, you can go to a postdoc, and you can be a faculty as well. So the postdoc salary is a little bit lesser than what you would expect as a faculty or industry. Sometimes, like very good industries like Google, Facebook can pay you a lot. And again, the same thing after postdoc. I think the options are you can be a permanent scientist, and or you can be a faculty, or again, some people also go to industry after postdoc. So it's all depends on what positions you are applying for. Generally, the industry salaries are more, and yeah, than the faculties.
Okay. So the next question is structured PhD versus conventional PhD in Europe. Which is better in case we want to get into academia ultimately?
Again, both have their advantages and disadvantages. I'll prefer myself as a like more relaxed US PhD over Europe, just because I have more time to learn and get done as much work as I want and get my research experience more, so that yeah, in terms of staying in academia, that might help you. But I'm not saying that yeah, the other option is really bad. So both have their own advantage and disadvantage.
Okay, so the next question is to you only. 1 second, sir. I am going for PhD at the University of Minnesota. Our advisors are not finalized yet, and even I am not very sure of which project should I go for. Should I start talking to prospective advisors now, or should I wait till I meet with the professors after joining the university?
Yeah, I think you can talk to him or her right now, because yeah, as soon as you start, at least you can do some reading, so till you are not there, and get some ideas. So you can have conversation by email or Zoom meeting. So better not to waste time and wait till you get there. So you can really start working when you get there.
So next question is to Abhilash. What problems Indian students are facing in PhD admission during this pandemic, and how the universities are managing for this situation for admission to the current students?
Actually, your voice was breaking. I didn't hear it.
Okay, is it clear now?
Yeah.
Okay, the question is what problems Indian students are facing in PhD admission during this pandemic, and how the universities are managing for this situation for the admission to the current students.
Okay. So yeah, pandemic has affected everyone and admission process also. So that's why if you say that universities, how they are managing, first they are very considerate about the pandemic, and they will not judge your application just because you couldn't finish something, or you just didn't finish good grades in any coursework. So they are considering that thing. and they also, some universities have also waived off the GRE requirement. There was like for fall 2021, none of them required GRE except one, UT Austin, I think, required GRE. So they are also considered in this thing that you don't need to give GRE, and other things also they are considering that even if you have something like if you submit the basic thing I'm talking about is if you submit thesis report instead of thesis, so they are also considering this thing. So everything for the application they are managing it, and you can the professors are understanding also. They will accept the situation. You don't need to worry about that.
Okay, so next question is to you only. Is GRE a requirement for August 2022 PhD applications in civil engineering programs? Maybe in any programs.
Yeah, actually, I don't have any idea about it. But what you can do when the applications are hosted on the website around September 15, so you can go and look at the university website. So it's clearly written that whether they would be requiring GRE or not. But for 2021 admissions, I can say none of them require GRE.
Okay. So will you please share your email ID in the chat box? Students are asking for it. Abhilash sir.
I should reply to specific student or to in general?
No, to everyone.
Okay.
You can send it to everyone. Yes. Apala?
Yes, Pranav. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay, so we have last 5 or 10 minutes. If anyone wants to ask any more questions. I'm sorry, previously my Wi-Fi just got disconnected, so I couldn't continue.
So, Abhilash sir, the question is, are they exempting TOEFL also?
No, I don't think that they have exempted TOEFL. TOEFL is required, that you have to send it. But yeah, it is required, TOEFL.
The question is to Sujan sir. Sir, is GRE or TOEFL is needed for postdoc?
No, I don't think so. No, generally people don't ask for GRE or TOEFL, at least not GRE at all for postdoc. So it's just your research experience, your papers, and the funding, and alignment of the project the professor has and your work. So not any exams are required.
Okay. So the next question is to Abhilash sir. I am a master's student and thinking of two options: a PhD from abroad versus a conversion of my master's to PhD here at IIT Kanpur. In a very general case, what would be the difference in the end of my PhD in both the cases?
I would say that it depends on your project. If you are getting good research exposure here at IIT Kanpur, which there are some labs which are doing great work here at IIT Kanpur. Actually, I know one student also who did his PhD from here, and he's doing quite well in his field, and he's abroad now. So if you are liking the project, your advisor is nice, he has got connections, and he is supportive, so then you can definitely go for conversion here. But if you want to have different research exposure, like experience different academic culture, so then definitely you should go for abroad. And there are some financial constraints also involved. When you apply, you have to give GRE, TOEFL, you have to apply for every colleges there, like some financial support you need for that. So if you're okay with that and want to experience something different in academic culture, then you should definitely go for outside PhD. Else, if you are okay with your current lab work, research work, you like your research lab very much, you're okay with that, so then you can go for India also.
Okay. So the next question is, can you discuss about PMRF program in India, application procedures and all? So it is for PhD.
Actually, I don't have any idea about PMRF program.
Yeah, I think it's Prime Minister Research Fellowship, but
Yes, sir.
I still, yeah, I don't know exact procedure. You have to look it
Pranav,
over.
we will have about PM later. This is not actually
Your voice is breaking, Apollo. It's not clear.
I'm saying that we'll have our sessions on PMRF, but today's talk is actually not based
Yes,
on
right.
this.
Right. Okay. So these are the questions from our side. Apollo?
Okay, so yes,
Yes.
actually we also prepared a few questions for the speakers. So actually the first question is that whatever scholarship or expenses that we'll be facing during our PhD and postdoc, so will that be sufficient from the fellowship that we'll be getting, both for PhD as well as for in postdoc? Or we'll sometimes have to do some other part-time jobs or some other research associate jobs? So any idea about that?
No, actually, if you are doing master's or PhD and you are funded through RA, I mean research assistantship or teaching assistantship, I think it's sufficient. You don't have to work part-time. So generally, the part-time work comes into the undergrad situation here. Sometimes the fees is too high, and sometimes the undergrads need to do like part-time jobs, but not for grad students. You don't really need it.
The next question is for Abhilash Ojha. The question is, can you please discuss about the GRE and TOEFL expenses, because many students actually face a lot of difficulty while appearing for those.
Yeah, for GRE, I would say the fees is around 15,000 rupees and Indian rupees, and for TOEFL it's 10,000. So it's like the total budget is around 25,000 rupees. So you have to be prepared for that, and I would suggest that you should start preparing. 25,000 is a huge amount of money, so you don't want to retake the exam. So you should plan accordingly, and you should start preparing early. You should devote at least 2 to 3 months for the preparation, so that you are not in the situation to retake. You don't have to retake the examination.
Okay, so yes, so we are coming to the end of the session. I think that's all the questions that we have taken from the audience, as well as we have put some of our questions as well. So Pranav, if you can take one picture of everyone, then we'll ask all to turn on their camera.
Okay. So Khushbu is there. So can you do that?
Pranav, you can simply type that print screen on your keyboard. That will also do.
Yes, yes, okay. Okay, done.
Okay, so thank you, Abhilash Ojha and Dr. Sujan Pal, for an amazing session for all our audiences. And I wish you everyone for your future perspectives and endeavors. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for organizing, and I wish you all good luck. And yeah.
Thank you.